It's a great pleasure to be here. And before I start getting into my talk, I thought I'd just say a little bit about me. So many years ago, I was like you at school, looking around what to do. I went on to university. I studied chemistry, was my thing that I loved doing then. And I guess the research was the thing that really got to me, the ability to do my own thing and to really investigate and find out answers that I wanted to find out. I've thoroughly enjoyed my career as a research scientist. I ended up going overseas, spending time at Berkeley and San Francisco, other cities in the US. Had a wonderful time overseas before coming back to Australia. I can see a lot of research across Australia now, and that's the perspective I'm going to give you today. So, just make sure my microphone's working. Let's start with the question, why do research? I'm going to talk about the importance of some of the skills that you develop as a research person, and then talk about some of the research funded by the Australian Research Council. Well, my answer to why you do research is because you enjoy it. For me, it's just been a thoroughly exciting time to feel that you are in control. You can search for the answers to the questions that you're interested in. And I'm sure that many of you and the people out there are thoroughly enjoying the work that they're doing in terms of the research projects that you've all done. Being involved in research brings a lot of diverse career pathways. It really opens a lot of doors for you in terms of where you might end up. I'll talk about some of those pathways later on. And as I said, you can do the things that you want to do, so it provides a high level of personal satisfaction. You can really enjoy coming to work and doing the sort of research that you're interested in doing. And I guess now more than ever, the value of knowledge in society is really at a premium. So because you people can do the research, you can learn, you can generate this knowledge, that's going to be of great value in whatever you do later on in life. So researchers tend to be analytical. What that means is you will try to understand that evidence, how good it is, whether it addresses the questions that you're after. Objective. Researchers tend to be evidence-based rather than subjective, where you go with your emotions and how you feel about things. A researcher does try to look at the evidence and see whether or not that backs up what you're thinking, your hypothesis and so on. Evaluative, so to examine the validity of the data, and there's so much out there. I mean, the typical thing, of course, is you go to Wikipedia or Google or something. How valid is that? How believable is the information that you're getting from Google or Wikipedia? As a researcher, you need to think about that. Questioning is the last attribute I've got up there. So a researcher has a very investigative approach. I'm sure that all of you in your research projects have had to think about things and take little detours to try to find out if this bit answers the question that you're looking at and so on. So overall, researchers tend to be problem solvers. Researchers tend to be lifelong learners. So if you're keyed up, if you have this idea about trying to find out the answers, you generally want to do that no matter at what stage in your life. I've just started doing an astrophysics course and trying to understand something about astrophysics, which I didn't know anything about. And for me, at my stage in life, that's wonderful to actually learn about what gets people excited about astrophysics. So, in terms of going on in your education, whether you go on into TAFE or to university or all sorts of things, having that research background helps you to appreciate the natural and the physical world. It helps all of us to understand the issues in society that we live in. And having that sort of questioning, objective background, when someone says something to me, as a research person, I think about, well, is that true, what they're telling me? About 80 to 90% of research takes place in what we call the STEM disciplines: science, technology, engineering, maths and medicine. So in those areas, that's where a lot of research takes place. And so I've just got a couple of slides about science and health graduates. So if you do go into science and health, you'll tend to have lower unemployment. You get employed using the skills that you've learned, maybe not as a scientist or as a health professional, but in all sorts of jobs, those analytical, objective, questioning skills will come into play. They tend to have salaries in the top 20% of their age group, and you don't follow a defined career pathway often. You can, but usually there are lots of opportunities that you might get into. And the second slide about science and health graduates. So some of those, as I said, work in science and medicine, but you can see all these other things, the other disciplines listed at the bottom of the slide there. A huge variety of jobs and careers that open up to you where you can use your research skills. Okay, well, the Australian Research Council provides funding for research. We fund everything except medicine, and so that takes us right from the very sort of hardcore physical sciences like physics, chemistry, geology, through the biological sciences such as botany and zoology, environmental science, agricultural science, through to the humanities and creative arts, writing, music, drama, design, architecture, into the social sciences, through to law, economics, business, those sorts of things. So there's a huge raft of research that the Australian Research Council funds in this area, and it's about a substantial budget of about $900 million per year that we fund as research grants and as salaries for people to do the research. And so I thought I'd just spend my last 5 minutes talking about some of those fellows, the research fellows, the salaries that we provide people to do research, as a way of giving you some examples of people that have done this. So we fund something called our mid-career fellowships, our future fellowships. So these are for people that they've already done a PhD at university, they've had somewhere between 5 and 10 years getting started in life in their academic career, and the Australian Research Council does something to support them in terms of keeping on going. So I've got a couple of examples from South Australia here. So these fellowships were funded, I think they were in our first round of Future Fellows, so about 4 to 5 years ago, and many of these people are just sort of finishing their fellowships. So Libby Roughhead here from the University of South Australia was looking at the safe use of pharmaceuticals, all sorts of practices that are involved in the administration of pharmaceuticals. Yeah, this guy, I saw he was giving a talk at the University of Adelaide last night actually. He did some work in the Antarctic looking at these high energy particles and where do they occur, or how can we find them and how are they generated. Bronwyn Gillanders from the University of Adelaide also was looking at fish ecology. So she was looking at some of the diseases and so on that occur in fish and trying to study the bones, the ear bones of fish to get some measure of the healthiness of fish over the ages and so on. Boris Baer from the University of Western Australia, he's been studying diseases in bees. Bees and honey and so on, obviously a very big part of the industry in Western Australia, but also in other parts of Australia as well. Very concerned about not letting diseases migrate around, and so he's been doing some interesting work there. Kathy Belov from the University of Sydney, she's worked with a lot of the native marsupials, the Tasmanian devil, all sorts of various other animals, looking at the health and disease of these native species. Mike Bunce from Murdoch University, looking at ancient DNA. It's not all science, medicine and so on. So Matthew Rimmer from the Australian National University, who's a lawyer, looking at intellectual property law, and his interest, I mean, we might think that it's all done and dusted. We go and make an invention and we're all fine. But he's been really trying to look at and explore the international intellectual property law and see if there are ways of improving it. How can we get the best value out of things that we're doing here in Australia in our international context? Quentin Stevens from RMIT University, so he's an architect. As I was wandering around your beautiful city this morning, I saw all this lovely public art that's out there. So Quentin's looking at the value of public art to society. How can we measure that? I mean, it's something you can't really quantify, but what are the benefits to society, I guess, of having the public art that's out there, or indeed having beautiful buildings, the Samri that you've got here, the lovely architecture, what does that do to a society? So a very interesting research project. So just to recap, why do research? Well, for me, I believe that it helps us to understand the world in which we live, and it really does underpin the development of our society as we move forward. So having that knowledge allows us to do wonderful things. And I'm looking around here, and I'm sure you people will be the ones doing wonderful things in 5 to 10 years' time. You're already doing wonderful things, but the wonderful things that will make a real impact on Australia. Personally, if I speak my own experiences in research, I think some of the challenges are in trying to find the time and the money, if you like, to support you. You need to be able to find an environment that supports that. So the Australian Research Council, as I've said, gives grants. They're highly competitive. So, one out of 5 people are successful in getting grants to support their research or to win a fellowship. So that's a very competitive environment. So I think that's a big challenge, is in being able to have the wherewithal to support what you do. Research is challenging. It's very rewarding, but it's hard. So in that sense, you have to work hard to get the rewards. And I personally have found that to be a really exciting thing. I know that if I do spend the time doing the research and so on, then I'm going to really enjoy it.